Hello, this is Jenny welcoming you to the 1932nd edition of the Enfield Talking Newspaper, Dateline 28th of November 2013. The readers this week are Audrey, Phil, Sonia and myself, Jenny, with Keith on the controls. The items that we will be reading from come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breuer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Berry, and is used with his kind permission. Local stories include Mental Health Cash Shortfall, Disgusting Habit Banned, The Final Delivery at Chase Farm, and All Systems Go for Influx of Patients. First of all, the special news items this week are a letter to Sylvia Chapman, which reads, "There was a splendid turnout for the pre-Christmas dance at the Civic Centre on Tuesday the 26th of November. Although it was difficult to find a way in, as the entrance to the car park was closed, once inside we all had a ball. A good number enjoyed the dancing and sing-along, and the entertainer, Paul Coleman, kept everyone on the go with some really live music. Daphne made an excellent speech on behalf of the visually impaired, thanking Sylvia for arranging this event and the warmth and affection they all feel for her. We know it could not be done without the support of her family, including her grandchildren, and her lively volunteers who make the occasion such fun. Thanks again, Sylvia. This was one of the best." And that's from Audrey. And a message here that this is an early reminder about the Enfield Vision Christmas Party on the 2nd of December at Park Avenue, and that is from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. If you are experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805-6578. She is your listener's representative who will be pleased to help you. Now Audrey will read the first item of local news.
And it says the final delivery at Chase Farm. Amelia Williams Gracia was delivered late on Tuesday, November the 19th, on the eve of the maternity ward's closure. In the last week, the hospital unit in the Ridgeway has been closed, with services now being shared between Barnet Hospital and North Middlesex Hospital in Edmonton. Antenatal care will continue to be provided at Chase Farm. Amelia's mother, Valerie Gracia, said, "The experience was amazing. We've been so well looked after under difficult circumstances for the staff here. It's been great to be here." Her father, Justin Williams, added, "It's nice that I was also born here myself 42 years ago." And straight on in the same paper, we have the first babies have been born at the New Look maternity unit, serving the residents of Enfield as well as Barnet and Haringey. North Middlesex University Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, which includes a 17-bed delivery suite and a midwife-led birth centre with 8 birth rooms and 6 birthing pools, witnessed its first new arrival on Thursday. Oliver was born weighing 6 pounds and 12 ounces after his mother Dita from Enfield was in labour for 4 hours. He is the couple's 3rd child, and his dad Thomas said, "We had the best health insurance around and went to the best hospitals in Boston in America to have our first child. This experience at the North Middlesex was comprehensively much better. We would recommend anyone to come here and have their baby. This is the best hospital around, and we are overwhelmed by what we have experienced in this new maternity unit. It has been perfect."
People in Enfield say they support the borough's upcoming ban on spitting, but have no idea how it will be enforced. From December the 8th, spitting will become a criminal offence throughout the London Borough in what is thought to be the first ban of its kind in the country. Those caught by Enfield Borough Council's litter patrol staff could be fined up to £500. More than 4,800 people have signed a petition in support of the ban since a campaign calling for the legislation began in 2011. and after calling for more evidence last year, local government secretary Eric Pickles gave the go-ahead to criminalise the habit in July this year. Enfield Over 50s Forum's president, Monty Meth, has played a major role in the campaign and is delighted to see the new bylaw come into force. He said, "We've managed to attract almost 5,000 people to sign this petition, which shows great support across the borough. There was slight resentment when the ban was first announced, but I think this will definitely help our community come together and will encourage more people to have greater community involvement. There is no doubt that by having support from all parties in the borough, that we are able to go to Eric Pickles with a strong case. Residents in the borough are also supportive of the ban, but have questioned how the council will enforce it. Ceylan Hassan, 24, from Edmonton, told the Enfield Independent, "I find spitting very unhygienic, rude, and just so disgusting. I'd give a round of applause to Enfield for doing this." Danny Wilkes, 33, who lives in Bush Hill Park, said, "I do see a lot of spitting on the ground, but only after it's been done. It's not a bad thing to have the law, but enforcement is the key. I don't know how they will catch people on the street as they spit. You can see the enforcement officers from a mile away." Pensioners David and Ella Walton suggested previous bans demonstrated that the spitting bylaw might work. Mr. Walton, who walks his dogs in Enfield Town Park, said, "When they brought in the dog mess ban, we all had to start carrying little black plastic bags with us to clear up after them. Now you don't see a lot of dog mess about at all. Maybe this will work in the same way." Mrs. Walton added, "We used to visit our son who was working in Malaysia, and they would spit quite publicly there with a horrible noise. They don't do that here as much, but you can still see where people have done it." Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, Councillor Chris Bond, said, "It has been a long and tortuous route to this moment, but we're grateful the government has given the go-ahead for our bylaw. We can now get on with dealing with those disgusting individuals who want to share their spit with the wider community and send out a strong message to show that this sort of disgusting behaviour won't be tolerated in a civilised society."
Mental health services in Enfield are under severe pressure due to a rise in patient numbers and funding constraints, managers have said. At last Thursday's meeting of Enfield Council's Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Panel at the Civic Centre in Silver Street, Enfield Town, Andrew Wright, Director of Strategic Development at the Barnet, Enfield and Haringey Mental Health Trust, updated councillors on current challenges. He said, "We believe we are a successful organisation, but we are in an increasingly difficult situation. We are under constant pressure because of an increasing number of patients accessing our services and increasing numbers of patients with severe mental health problems, without an increase in funding." Mr. Wright said that over the past 3 years, the Trust has experienced an 11% rise in patient demand and has the highest proportion of detained admissions in the capital. 40% of admitted patients are detained under the Mental Health Act. The Trust's bed occupancy rate is currently 103%. A spokesman said, "On occasions, when we reach 100% bed occupancy and there is an urgent clinical need to provide a patient with a bed, we are able to convert a side room into a patient bedroom. This would only ever be a solution for a very short period of time, a few hours, until another bed became available." The Trust said the Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group has allocated just 7%, £23.9 million, of overall spending to mental health services, compared to a 12% average in the capital. Mr. Wright added that the Trust's current need is around 11% of overall CCG spending, which means a funding injection of around 13.6 million is required. But the CCG claims that it is spending 11%, or 37.5 million of its total budget of 341 million on mental health services. When asked about the discrepancy, the Trust said this was due to different ways of calculating local mental health spend. A spokesman added, "What is important is that we are working very closely with all CCGs to look at funding and activity levels in order to continue to provide high-quality care and treatment." Alev Kazimoglu, the panel's chairwoman, said, "Managers were clear about the fact that services are at breaking point. It is clear that things are coming to a head. It is about resources meeting demand, and it is clear that demand far outweighs the level of resources the Trust has. The solution is an increase in health spending." The Council estimates that there are 37,294 adults aged between 18 and 65 in the borough who suffer from a neurotic disorder such as depression or anxiety.
The final touches are being applied to Barnet Hospital, which is bracing itself for additional patients coming from Enfield following the downgrade of Chase Farm Hospital. The hospital in Wellhouse Lane, High Barnet, has undergone a transformation after being allocated £23 million to expand and improve maternity and accident and emergency services, as well as provide 200 extra parking spaces. The funding came as part of the Barnet, Enfield and Haringey clinical strategy, which will see both Barnet Hospital and North Middlesex University Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, take on a significant number of additional patients after the A&E department at Chase Farm Hospital in the Ridgeway, Enfield, shuts on December the 9th. Barnet has the capacity to deliver 5,525 babies a year, up from 3,281 births during 2012-13. The hospital has a new midwife-led unit with 5 birthing rooms, including 3 large pools. It also has a new delivery suite, which has been expanded from 6 to 13 beds and has 98 hours of consultant cover a week. The hospital's antenatal ward has been expanded from 32 to 48 beds, while its neonatal unit, where babies born early or with complications are kept under observation, now has 30 cots, up from 20 before the changes. Katie Tew, Assistant Manager for the implementation of the clinical strategy for women and children, who was born at Chase Farm, said the transition had gone smoothly. "It has gone really well at this site, and all of the staff have been on board with the transition, which has been great," she said. "Even if, like me, you have an attachment to Chase Farm, it has been really exciting to see this project come to completion." Work at Barnet's A&E unit, where a new CT scanner, which uses X-rays and a computer to create detailed images of the inside of the body, is being installed, is expected to be completed next week. Lorraine Chowdhury, matron of emergency medicine, said, "It has been challenging, particularly because the works have been ongoing while we kept the service running. But the staff have been excellent, and the number of compliments we received from patients has increased. Pregnant women can continue receiving services at the Chase Farm site, including midwife-led antenatal care and classes, as well as postnatal care."
Police are investigating a stabbing outside a fast food restaurant in Enfield in the early hours of yesterday morning. Officers were called at 2:45 a.m. to the McDonald's at Enfield Retail Park in Dearsley Road, where they discovered an 18-year-old man with multiple stab wounds to his back and arms. Paramedics took him to an East London hospital, where his condition was said to be serious but stable, as we went to press. A 21-year-old woman was arrested at the scene on suspicion of grievous bodily harm. A 22-year-old man was arrested later at an address in Waltham Cross, suspected of grievous bodily harm with the intent to supply Class A and B drugs. At the time of going to press, both were still in police custody.
Environment Agency scientists say wiping out every fish in a brook is the only way to deal with a population of invasive non-native gudgeon. The agency, which will restock the stream with indigenous species, is using the naturally occurring pesticide rotenone in a 2-kilometre stretch of Cuffley Brook to deal with a large population of the topmouth gudgeon. The fish originates from Asia and was accidentally introduced to Europe in the 1960s. They reproduce rapidly, spawning 4 times a year and can overwhelm native fish populations. Cheryl Walmsley, Senior Media Officer for the Environment Agency's South East Branch, said, "Rotenone is a naturally occurring organic substance similar to a pesticide or herbicide specifically designed to cull fish. Rotenone is selective to fish, which is why it is used. Mammals and birds are not affected. The programme commenced on November the 18th and will conclude on December the 16th. Miss Walmsley said Rotenone would be used in exceptionally low doses, but the other casualties, as well as the gudgeon, will be roach, eel, stickleback, minnow and stone loach. The Environment Agency will restock the brook with native fish once the rotenone is neutralised." Amy Felis, Project Manager for Waterways Charity Thames 21, described gudgeon as very invasive. She said, "Nobody likes this, but there isn't any other option. You can't fish for them since their fry is the size of an eyelash, and they can survive in the gills or mouths of native fish. We have had a few residents that object to this, but once we explained it to them, they agreed with it."
A victim of identity fraud hopes that his misfortune will inspire other people to be more vigilant. The retired Enfield resident discovered that he and his wife had been victims of identity fraud when their bank called to ask about unusual account activity last month. The man, who wished to remain anonymous, said, "The bank told us whoever this person was, they managed to pass all the security questions. The only way this would have been possible was if they'd taken our post. My first thought was that someone in the postal office was responsible. After talking with the postman, the man found someone had been posing as his granddaughter for 2 weeks. He said, 'My postman told me he'd been giving the post to my granddaughter every morning while she sat on my doorstep with a cigarette. She told the postman that she wasn't allowed to smoke in the house and that she would take the letters inside afterwards.' I was in utter shock. She used such a believable backstory. People need to know this is happening. She might not only be targeting Enfield, so everyone should be aware of this and be extra vigilant." The suspect requested a new debit card from the bank, tried to spend £8,000 in a central London departmental store, and withdrew £300 in cash from an ATM machine. Enfield Police received a report of a similar crime committed at Queen Anne's Grove in Bush Hill Park on November the 9th. In that case, no access to the victim's bank account was gained. A Metropolitan Police spokesperson said, "Enfield Police are investigating 2 similar incidents of mail theft. At this stage, the 2 reports are not being treated as linked."
And now Howard Medwell writes, "Suddenly everyone is talking about the housing crisis. We have at last noticed that London's housing stock has become an investment opportunity for foreign billionaires rather than a basic right for ordinary Londoners. The Conservative Party's Help to Buy policy should really be called Help to Buy to Let. So far, nobody is talking about how we can change things. And yet British history teaches us that people can organise collectively to fight for affordable housing. Take World War I, a time of great housing stress. As armaments production increased, more and more workers moved into the overcrowded industrial areas. Landlords took advantage by jacking up the rents. Then resistance began. Tenants in Glasgow went on rent strike, building barricades around the flats to keep the bailiffs out. During 1915, the rent strike movement spread all over Britain. In Edmonton, an important arms-producing area, there were 3 successive rent strikes involving thousands of tenants. All this militant action forced the wartime Liberal government to introduce a rent freeze. If you're still on the housing waiting list, you can't go on rent strike. But people have also taken direct action for the right to housing itself. Just after World War II, homeless ex-servicemen and their families organised a mass squatting campaign. Hundreds of premises, including hotels and luxury flats, were occupied. The police everywhere were brushed aside. The government, Labour this time, was forced to respond to the situation, increasing the supply of prefabs, prefabricated dwellings, to replace houses which had been blitzed. Young people don't need to be told what the current housing crisis means. You grovel to the agent, you agree to give the landlord half your monthly income, or else you camp out on a mate's sofa. The question is, can we, in today's depoliticised Britain, rediscover the militancy of former generations?
A cold and frosty Christmas 21 years ago, a group of very excited children performed their specially written festive show for Chicken Shed, patroned by Princess Diana and her 2 young sons. For 2 of those wide-eyed stars, Robin Shillinglaw and Emma Cambridge, the night before Christmas sparked a passion to this day. Now all grown up, Chicken Shed has remained an integral part of their lives, and they are now stepping back onto the stage to help show a whole new generation of children just how magical the world of theatre can be. To mark its 40th year, Chicken Shed is reviving the show and giving more than 800 actors the chance to perform on stage at its theatre in Southgate. For Emma, performing the Yuletide play again has brought back lots of great memories. The High Wycombe resident, who was born with Down syndrome, was just 8 when she starred as Slay Kid with Robin in the 1992 original, which was written around the personalities of its young stars. The 30-year-old says, "It gave me a chance to be a person and have my own voice and gave me a lot of inspiration. I was shy and in the corner until Robin came up to me. Speaking about performing for Princess Diana, she says, I remember we went backstage and met her and she said she wanted to be a dancer. She and Robin are both part of a core cast this time around, who are in all 59 performances. Emma will be playing the matchstick seller, and Robin will take the role of a reindeer who leads the children on their adventure. The show, which uses integrated sign language, is set up on Christmas Eve, when a group of excited children tear into their huge sack of presents and find gifts that were meant for Cinderella's ugly sisters, Mr. Ebenezer Scrooge and the Snow Queen. They realise they must journey to magical faraway lands to return these presents, learning the true meaning of Christmas as they go. And all before midnight. Thinking back to his boyhood performance, Robin, who lives in Boreham Wood, says, I remember we had to sing the national anthem and I was wearing my pyjamas. I was 13 and probably still am on the inside really, even though I'm actually 34. Emma was 8 when we did the show at the Blue Place. It's weird because I didn't really realise how much of an effect it had on me until recently. He was sitting next to Emma when he heard the news that they would be reviving the show and says, I didn't anticipate how moving I would find it because it conjured up all these memories of being a child and having my mind probed. As one of the 6 children, we had lots of ideas and they would bounce things off us and then rewrite the script. I was quite precocious and bossy, being the oldest of the 6 children, and that really did come out. Emma was the youngest, cutest and most imaginative, and I really stole the hearts of most of the characters in the play and the audience. We really naturally found each other at that time in our lives. He adds, I was so naive and was just enjoying myself. I certainly didn't think in 21 years I would still be working for the company. Now, as an associate producer for the company, he adds, I was caught up in the magic of it, and in some ways I have never got out of it. Chicken Shed nurtured something in me that allowed me to be excited and playful and get lost in my imagination, and the show really embraces that. He is loving, helping to introduce it to the next generation, and adds, variety is a spice of Chicken Shed life. One of the reasons I have kept doing Chicken Shed as long as I have is it's never the same. It's ironic. I'm saying that seeing as we are doing the same, but we are doing it with new blood, and the new kids breathe new life into it. There is such a difference between each rota. When you see a 6-year-old buzzing about, putting their heart and soul into getting it right for this huge creative thing, it really is so very inspiring.
After a weekend of celebrations, Christmas has definitely arrived in Southgate. The High Road is now adorned with lights and festive shop displays after 2 days of fun, which included the launch of Santa's Grotto. On Friday afternoon, school kids led carol singing under the Christmas tree in the centre of Southgate Circus, before the official lights switch on by Santa Claus, who was joined by Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows. Santa then headed to the heartland of the shopping district to open his grotto at the Southside Club in Chaseside. Saturday's fun included horse and carriage rides, as well as reindeer outside Vic Smith's beds in Dennis Parade, and snow machines on the streets. Mr. Smith, a member of the Southgate Chamber of Trade, said, there were hundreds of people in the High Street. It really brought Southgate together, like the summer festival did. On December 14th, the Chamber will host an ice rink in the area.
We have now reached the end of side 1 of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side 2.
Oh, that was quick, wasn't it?